Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Garrison, and I'm an alcoholic. And it's truly through the grace of God and the power of Alcoholics Anonymous that I've been sober since May 30th, 1982. And that does not make me a miracle. It makes Alcoholics Anonymous a miracle. And if you're new here tonight, I want to welcome you to AA. And I always call it God's magnificent AA, the program that saved my life, and it's going to save yours too, if you want to take a few quick actions. And I suggest strongly that you get a sponsor tonight, that you get that book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and you get busy. And everybody else is doing around here, and you're going to stay sober as I've stayed sober for 23 years, and people like me cannot stay sober, I can guarantee you. My home group is the Pacific Group in West LA, a group I'm very, very proud to be a member of, just as I'm sure you're proud to be a member of yours. And I guess if you're not proud, you ought to get a job and you might change your mind. I certainly have a job mind, and I'm proud to have that job. I want to thank Sharon and the committee for inviting me. This is an honor and a privilege. It's one that I do not take lightly, I'll guarantee you. You guys, I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I really do. And I think that it shows. And I make an awful lot of mistakes. I do an awful lot of things wrong. But I'll tell you one thing, that I love you. Make no mistake about that. I want to thank my wonderful hostess, Barbara, for picking me up in the airport. I did drink with Barbara and Sharon. I want you guys to know that. I really mean that. That's a compliment. It really, there's people in AA I would not drink with, trust me. But, you know, I've been taught to do an awful lot of things before I ever wrote my big mouth. And one thing is talk to my sponsor. And Clancy sent you his love and very best wishes tonight. And even this room is wondering why I have a man for a sponsor and why I have Clancy for a sponsor. It's really quite simple. I did not get sober in California. I got sober in a place called Lincoln, Nebraska, and was not doing well in Alcoholics Anonymous in Lincoln, Nebraska. I went through 19 sponsors at a rapid clip. And I'm certainly not proud of that as I stand here tonight. And thank God for the old timers in AA, because somebody loved me enough to get my current sponsor. And I can tell you that my life has done nothing but totally, completely turn as a result of it. And I absolutely adore the ground that man walks on. I talked to him before I left town on Thursday, and he said, well, get up there and share your experience, your strength, and your hope, and tell those people what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. Ignore the old-timers. They got it. They don't need your inspiration, my dear. And talk directly to those new people, the life and blood of AA. And I believe that as I stand here, and I welcome you, and I hope that you stay, and that I think I did, without a doubt, the most important thing I can ever do. And that's to say, God, please help me say what you want me to say to these people. God is very much a part of my life tonight, you guys, and I used to be that way with me, I can guarantee you. I also want to thank the committee for that. God, I walked in my room. I could not believe that gorgeous basket of goodies in my room. And Steve was right. The hospitality is, you just can't compare it to anything. So one more time, I want to thank you for having me and stuff. But, you know, like I said, you know, I've been sober since May 30th, 1982. It was not always my sobriety date. When I got my current sponsor, I had to change that date, and there's a reason for that. I'm one of these people who had to go out and smoke dope when I got sober. And, you know, if you're smoking marijuana in this room today, you are not sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, I will tell you right this minute. And I don't want to argue about it afterwards. Ask any old-timers if you don't believe me. And if I had to change my date, then by God, so do you. But anyway, I got my current sponsor. I tried to explain to him, whether I'm from Nebraska, you can have two sobriety dates, one from alcohol and one from drugs. He rather quickly pointed out to me that I was in Southern California. We have one date here to get my date changed. And I was such a smart aleck when I got my current sponsor. And I said, where does the book mention pot? He said, the book does mention pot. And I said, Clancy, I have read that book. He said, I talk about marijuana in that book. And he said, if I find the word pot in that book, will you change your sobriety and never argue with me again? And I knew I was making a bad deal, you guys, but I did anyway. And I'll be damned if he didn't flip open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. On the first page of Bill Wilson's story, it says, died by musket or by pot. I said, that is not what that means. He said, quite frankly, my dear, I don't care what it means. You said the book didn't mention pot. It does mention pot. Change your sobriety date. And my life has flourished, I got to tell you guys. But I'm delighted to be here tonight. What a beautiful place to celebrate our sobriety. What a fabulous, fabulous place this is and stuff. But, you know, you guys, this has been without a doubt the best 2 years of my sobriety, and I want to share that with you here tonight. You know, if you'd have asked me New Year's Eve, a year ago New Year's Eve, are your amends made in Alcoholics Anonymous? I would have said yes, that would have been the absolute truth for me. I made $86,000 out of debt in this program. I have no verbal amends, no financial amends. I'm home free here. All I got to do is have a sponsor, have a God in my life, continue these steps, and the other 3,000 things we do to stay sober. Looks like I'm going to be okay and stuff. And our book says that more will be revealed, folks. And I flew to Kansas City, Missouri on a year ago New Year's Eve to give an AA talk, and this big banquet, dance, dinner type thing. So they asked me to come, and so air traffic control to tell us for whatever reason, so we were circling the airport and looked out the airplane window, and I spied the Hyatt Regency Hotel. I thought, oh my God, there's the Hyatt Regency. And I remember something I'd done about 35 years ago. You know, I read my inventory to my sponsor. I'd not mentioned this for whatever reason. I'd done so much of this sort of thing, it was no big deal, I guess, but I didn't really remember it. So now I remember it, and now I got to tell my sponsor. So I called him up, and he said, well, get over there and make amends for you. If I give the place a bad name. And I thought, well, if I have time, I'll get that done. Anyway, 35 years ago on Easter morning, I found myself in the Hyatt Regency Hotel glass elevator, stark naked. It landed on the first floor of the hotel, and here was this family standing in their Easter clothes. I never forget the look on their face as long as I live. But anyway, that committee kept me really, really busy. I did not have time to get over there. I was going to be there for 24 hours. And so anyway, I went at the airport on New Year's Day to go back to Los Angeles, and my flight was canceled. I thought, great, I got 5 hours to kill, take a shuttle, go to the Hyatt and try to find somebody to talk to. I thought, yeah, I think I can even find anybody on New Year's Day to talk to. And boy, I was wrong about that, let me tell you. I sat down with the manager of the Hyatt Regency Hotel, and I told him what I'd done. He laughed. He said, Karen, stop. I have to tell you a funny story. He said, 35 years ago, my father was manager of the Hyatt at that time, and we were here having Easter brunch. And he said, you have to take the glass elevator upstairs to the brunch area. And so he said, I was only 7 years old. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, and the door opened up, and a naked woman got off. And I said, well, I'm sorry I had to be your first one. You got to take whatever you can get here. And he said, and Mom and Dad are here this week. And I thought, oh, wonderful, you know. Yeah, they're celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. Let's have them come down and meet you. And I thought, let's not, you know. But I didn't say that. We don't say that. We just go along with it. And I said, whatever you want to do will be fine with me. So Mom and Dad came down. I thought, my God, they're probably 100 years old on walkers. They'll probably have a heart attack when they find out who I am. And one more time, I was wrong about that. I sound the loveliest people I have ever met before in my life. And they laughed. They said, Karen, we talked about you for years in the bars of the Hyatt Regency. I said, yeah, I bet you did too. And I said, I'm so sorry I embarrassed you and your family here those years ago. What can I do to make that right? And they said, just don't ever do it again. I said, you know what? I can't think of anything more disgusting than a 59-year-old woman getting out of a glass elevator stark naked. I doubt very much if I'll be taking that path anytime soon. So as I stand here tonight, my men's remain in Alcoholics Anonymous. It ain't midnight yet, folks. You never know what's going to happen around here and stuff. But anyway, a year ago in May, I was over in Laughlin, Nevada. I spoke at the Tri-State Roundup. And if you guys want to go to another great conference, go to that one. They get about 7,000 to 8,000 people this thing, and it's just a fabulous event. So we were hanging around the casino on Thursday night waiting for the meeting to start, and I hit a $10,000 slot is what happened. And I was to experience every promise in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous in about 5 seconds flat. I was to know a new freedom and a new happiness, and fear of financial insecurity left me temporarily. If you're new here tonight, that is not how you get the promises in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I swear to God, I got them on. It was really a great event. Don Laughlin owns that Riverside Hotel over there, so he came down to say hi to me. The only reason he came down is because they want their money back, is what they want. But anyway, he said, can we extend your stay? And I said, no, check, please. I'm taking it back to L.A. And he said, what are you doing here this weekend? And I said, well, actually, I'm speaking at the Roundup. And he said, oh, can I come hear you speak? I'd love to hear the AA speakers. And I said, it's your hotel. Do whatever you want to, I guess. And by God, he was in the line the very next night. And this is so funny. They never give up, folks, you know. He says to me, are you sure we can extend your stay? And I said, I'm absolutely positive. So I'm happy to report here tonight. I took that 10 grand back to Los Angeles. I paid my car off with it. And I am truly debt-free in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it is a great position to be in, let me tell you guys. I never wish again to ever pay $86,000 back again as long as I live. It took me 18 years to do that. It's like paying for dead horses everywhere. But you know what? I am so glad I paid that money back. And in retrospect here tonight, you know, I am not a martyr, folks. I didn't want to pay one penny of it back. You know, my sponsor told me, then get a different sponsor. I'm not dealing with you on this level. You owe that money to those people. It is not your money. It is their money. They just want their money back. Start paying it back. Figure out a way to do it and get it done. And, you know, it wasn't long. I made a couple payments on that, and I started really feeling good about myself, you guys. So, anyway, I found out something interesting here. At 23 years of sobriety, I don't need that much if you want to know the truth. I'm just fine the way I am, trust me. I don't need but one credit card in my life, and the only time I use it is for emergencies, for car problems or something like that. So, but anyway, you know, I am really glad to be here, and thank you one time, you guys, for inviting me and stuff. But, you know, I got to tell you guys, I come from a wonderful home there in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I want you to know that. And my mother wanted you to know it too, I'll guarantee you that. You know, my mom died 13 years ago, and God, I miss her so much I can't begin to tell you guys. And boy, you only have one, folks, and when they're gone, they're gone. And I'd made amends to her many, many years ago. We had a wonderful relationship the last few years of her life and stuff, but I just miss her so much. And I have to tell you guys a funny story. Not that my mom died, of course, but I was back in Nebraska in August to visit my kids and my grandkids and stuff, and I told my oldest son, I'm going to go to Grandma Warner's grave and put some flowers down. I said, where's your my ex-mother-in-law buried? Where's your other grandmother buried? I wasn't there for her funeral. And he said, well, Mom, just mark off 15 rows from Grandma Warner's grave, and there's Grandma Lynn's grave. And it's a tiny little graveyard, you guys, and it was overcast in Nebraska. It had been raining and stuff, and it was now 5:10 in the afternoon. I thought, I really got to hurry here. By 5:30, I was supposed to be at the Orlando Club. I told him I'd give a talk and stuff, so I really had to hurry. And so I went up the graveyard. And there was nobody there but me, you guys. And I put the flowers down. I marked off 15 rows to my ex-mother-in-law's grave, and I put the flowers down, and I backed up, and I found myself in an 8-foot grave, you guys, and I could not get out of that damn thing. Let me tell you something, folks. When you're in it, you ain't getting out of it. Trust me. But you know, the grave diggers in Nebraska, they opened the grave the day before, and they thought, well, nobody's out here. They put a tarp up and a caution sign, a thing to hold the casket. It's basically impossible to fall in a grave. But they thought, well, nobody's out here. It's raining. Let's go to dinner and we'll come back and do it later. And here I come sauntering over, and I thought, how am I going to get out of this grave? You know, what I was really worried about here was not being in the grave. I told them I'd be at that meeting at 5:30. I've been taught to show up my commitments in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that really bothered me. And there I was standing there, mud, dress, and all. But anyway, I thought, what am I going to do when you start screaming, help is what you do? And pretty soon this old lady walked over the grave. She's old, but I'm not, right? And she says to me, she says, I don't think you're supposed to be in there. And I thought, stupid woman. I didn't say that, though. And I said, do you have a cell phone on you by any chance? And she says, you know, I don't. And I said, what am I going to do? I said, go up to the office, see when he's still there, and tell him to get a ladder, call the fire department, whatever they got to do to get me out of here. But tell him not to run the sirens. It's not an emergency. Nobody's hurt here and stuff. So here they come, you guys. 6 Lincoln, Nebraska fire trucks with their sirens going. 3 Lincoln, Nebraska police cars with their sirens going. And reporters of all damn things. And I said, don't you dare put my name in the paper. And they said, we wouldn't do that, but we have to report the fire call. And I said, just don't put my name in the paper. And there it was Monday morning, Lincoln Journal and Star, California woman falls in 8-foot grave, Karen Garrison. I couldn't believe they did that, but you never know what's going to happen now, Alcoholics Anonymous. But I want you all to know here tonight, I got that meeting at 5:29 p.m. I was there for my talk, and the people said, Karen, why do you have mud all over your dress? And I said, don't even go there. You don't even want to know. Trust me, you don't want to know. But it's been a great 2 years of my sobriety, and even though I fell in the grave, it's been a great year of my sobriety too. But anyway, I come from an alcoholic home, and I don't think that's neither here nor there. I don't do well with people who stand at AA podiums and blame anybody for anything. And my father died from this disease on the streets of Chicago in 1979. And you tell me how a major in the Air Force dies on Skid Row. I don't know how that happened, other than the fact that he was an alcoholic. And whether he ever found AA or not, I do not know. I just know that he certainly did not stay sober as a result of it. So one more time tonight, this is a cunning, baffling, powerful disease that kills people. This is not a game I'm playing up here. This is serious business. And I would give any world if my father were alive tonight, because we would have a lot to talk about, I can tell you. I have a sister who was Miss Rah-Rah in high school and homecoming queen and cheerleading and all that kind of stuff, and made straight A's and never cracked a book, and I made straight F's and never cracked a book, and that was the difference. My sister was a beautiful little girl. She's a gorgeous woman today. She looks nothing like I do, I got to tell you. And she was a model for many, many years for Neiman Marcus in Dallas, and now she's retired and teaches school in the West Indies. And I got to tell you guys, as a direct result of this program, I love my sister very, very much tonight, and I found out something about her. She's also very beautiful on the inside, too, and I never used to know that. I have a brother who was a fighter pilot in the Navy for many, many years. My brother retired 5 years ago in August, and during 9/11 in Iraq and so forth, he's been called back in the service. And, you know, my brother is really old to be a fighter pilot, you guys. He's 52 years old, and we were growing up, I thought he was such a dork, I can't begin to tell you. Straight as an arrow Mike, doesn't drink, doesn't use drugs, doesn't screw around. He was an embarrassment to me, if you want to know the truth. And tonight I'm so proud of that man, I cannot begin to tell you. You wouldn't catch me over Iraq in any fighter plane, but neither one of these people are alcoholic. And I have another sister who's married to the public defender in Lincoln, Nebraska, who got me out of a whole bunch of trouble when I got sober, and I'm welcome in their homes today, and I never used to be. I come from basically a very boring family, if you want to know the truth. They're high successful people, and they bore me to tears. I love them, but they bore me to tears. And I have a couple kids who are 44 and 45 years old, and I know I certainly don't look old enough to have kids that age, but by God, I sure do. And this is where it really starts getting interesting for me. These kids are anything but boring, I got to tell you guys. As a matter of fact, they're a couple of jerks, if you want to know the truth. But you know what? Those couple of jerks have given me 5 of the most gorgeous grandbabies you have ever seen before in your life. And, you know, I hate to be a bragging grandmother as I stand here tonight. I detest people that do this, but when I do, it's a whole different ballgame, let me tell you. But I have a beautiful grandson. His name is Ryan, and Ryan is 15, soon to be 16 years old. And apparently Ryan is quite a gymnast, you guys. I knew he was good, but I know he was that good. And my son and his wife got a a phone call from Budweiser at St. Louis, Missouri, wanting to sponsor this kid and train him for the Olympics, you guys. And my son called me, and this is the kind of alcoholic I am. I jumped from phone call to Olympic Stadium, gold medal around his neck, and what will I wear, you know? It happened just that quick. But I found myself telling my child, Jeff, you have to do what you think is right here. This is your son, not mine. I wanted to shriek at him and say, let him go, you idiot. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. But I kept my mouth shut. Once my Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to keep my mouth shut, and it really turned out well this time. And he said, Mom, we don't know what to do. What would you do, Mom? Now I'm on, folks, let me tell you. And I said, well, Jeff, I don't think anybody knows what they would do for sure unless it happens to them. But I said, we have a dear friend, Lincoln, who's a child psychologist. And I said, why don't you have Chris come over and talk to Ryan and see what he thinks? And my son did exactly that. And you know that child psychologist told my son and his wife, let him go. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. He's a very stable young man. So I'm happy to report here tonight that my little grandbaby is down in Norman, Oklahoma, trained at Nadia Comaneci and Bart Connor's clinic down there. And you guys, I have no idea what's going to happen with that. I have no idea. But I'll guarantee you one thing. If that baby goes to the next Summer Olympics, his grandma will be in that stadium. If I have to walk there, I'll be there. But, you know, in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says that great events will come to pass for us and countless others. And I want to share a very great event in my life with you. It won't be in your lives, but it's most certainly in mine. You guys, the day I got sober, I weighed 95 pounds. I was the color of squash. I had alcoholic hepatitis. I had a liver cirrhosis. I had ruptured esophageal varices. And if you don't know what that stuff is, you don't want to, because you die from that kind of stuff. And I was standing on Skid Row in Lincoln, Nebraska, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And if you guys haven't drank Mad Dog, I need to tell you it's not one of your finer wines, I can assure you. I'll guarantee you one thing, that crap has never seen a grape, make no mistake about that. And I literally could not believe what's going on in my life. I'd lost my children. I'd lost my husband twice. I don't really care about that, I want you to know. I'd lost my car. I'd lost my house. I destroyed every relationship I'd ever had with anybody. And I was clearly dying from alcoholism. And then I lost the one thing that brought me my knees and disease. I lost my nursing license. And you guys, I love my profession. Absolutely devastated me, but it did not stop me from drinking. And there's a reason for that, and it's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I have an obsession that somehow, someday, I've learned to control and enjoy my drinking. The persistent illusion is astonishing. Many of us pursue the gates of insanity and death, and I'll guarantee you one thing. I was in the gates of pure insanity. I got sober almost into my coffin. And I am so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous as I stand here tonight. I cannot begin to tell you. And you know, I want to point out here that when I got sober, my family wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. They had all the crap they were going to take off me years before I quit drinking. They had to walk away from their own sanity, the truth. But, you know, and through making amends and sponsorship and the things we do around here, it's all turned around for me now. But it took a long time for it to happen. And in my case, that's a good thing. But on my 20th AA birthday, 3 years ago in May, it was Ryan's very first day down in Norman, Oklahoma, and he called me about 10:30 at night, and he said, "Oh, grandmother, I'm so sorry to call you so late." And I said, "It is never too late to call your grandmother. Don't you ever think that." And he said, "Oh, Grandma, I wanted to wish you a happy 20th AA birthday." And you guys, I just stood there, and I just cried like a baby. And he said, "Oh, Grandma, I make you cry." And I said, "You didn't make me cry. I'm crying because I'm so happy you called me." And he said, "Oh, Grandma, we're so proud of you." And I thought, oh, stop, you know. But, you know, I would not trade that phone call for that 10,000. Well, that's not quite true, but you know what I'm talking about. And the same thing happened on A birth number 21, A birth number 22, A birth number 23. And I'll tell you guys, things with my family, and I thank you for this night, are very, very good. It is only a direct result of this program, I can assure you. And like I said, it took a long time for it to happen. Anyway, you know, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was a disruptive jerk when I was growing up, always in trouble, getting kicked out of classrooms. I hated discipline. I was very, very rebellious. I really hated people telling me what to do. And I like it even less today, if you want to know the truth. And, you know, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And I hear that a lot from AA podiums, and I'm right on with that, 125%, I got to tell you. You know, I really don't remember my first drink, you guys, but I can tell you that I hope to God I never forget my last one. And I hope it was my last one. Remember what alcohol did for me from the very beginning? It made me feel like I belonged. I could be anything I wanted to be. I could do anything I wanted to do. I drank at any given opportunity after that, and I was probably about 13 years old. You know, I realize that I'm in the meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, and I honor this podium by talking about alcoholism up here. I used a lot of drugs too. Make that a small part of my story. My sponsor encourages me to do that. You know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and Bill Wilson's story, he says, and I quote him, "Under the powerful influence of alcohol and sedation, he wound up on the rocks." That is precisely what happened to me, folks. But anyway, you know, I'm one of these alcoholic females, and I hate to say this from an AA podium, but it's precisely the way it was for me, and we're supposed to tell the truth up here, that if you pat me on the head, my pants fall, is what happens to me. And I got myself into a lot of trouble when I was growing up. I absolutely love men. I love everything about them. You name it about, and I love it about them. They've been the downfall of my entire existence, and they remain the same today, I'm sorry to say. I particularly like sick men, and there's a room full of them here tonight. I can just feel it, That's one thing, girls, I love about Southern California. It's got so many sick men, and I'm just entertained around the clock 24 hours a day. And, you guys, I'm 61 years old, and I have a boyfriend. You better well believe I have a boyfriend. He lives in New York, and I live in L.A. That's why we get along so well and stuff. So things haven't changed a whole lot for me in that arena, I'll tell you. But I have to tell you guys a funny story. I was in Nashville, Tennessee about maybe 14 years ago giving a talk, and one of the fine ladies of Nashville, Tennessee AA walked up to me afterwards, I want you to know, and this woman said to me, she said, "You're disgusting." And she wasn't kidding, you guys. She meant every word of it. And I said, "Lady, from where I come from, being disgusting is a step up, I can assure you. And furthermore, if I wanted you to sponsor me, I'd flown to Nashville and asked you. I hear some women get this podium, and I wonder if they ever drank, you guys. I really do. Do all the drinking, and one of them said she was with the keyhole of an eyedropper. I was out there big time. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I've been taught to share that freely in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if I offend anybody in this room tonight, I would never offend anybody in the program that saved my life. And besides that, my book tells me, and this is my favorite part of our book, it says, cling to the thought that in God's hands, your dark past will be the greatest possession that you have. And it goes on to say, because you can literally avert death and misery for others. And I found it to be very, very true in my sobriety. So if I offend anybody here, now I don't want to hear about it afterwards. But anyway, I got pregnant when I was 16 years old, and I had to get married. In my day, girls, you had to get married. There was no ifs, ands, and buts about that. It's just what we did and stuff. And as it must be, I married an alcoholic. He was 17. I was 16. I couldn't cook. I couldn't clean. I couldn't take care of a baby. Nor did I want to take care of a baby. And before we knew, we had 2 babies to take care of. And I quick found out what caused all that, and I put a halt to it, I'll guarantee you that. And that caused me a lot of trouble throughout the years. And as it must be, I married an individual that refused to work, that drank on a daily basis. He's one that beat me up on a daily basis. And I had never seen a man hit a woman before in my life, you guys. I'll guarantee you one thing. If my dad would lay one hand on my mom, she'd have knocked him from here to the moon, I got to tell you. And I grew to hate this guy very, very much. And I'm not blaming him for my disease, so please don't get me wrong. It's just part of my story, and I need to share it. And somebody in that family had to get a job. And I hadn't even finished junior high yet, for Christ's sakes. And I found a job as a nurse's aide at a hospital there in Lincoln. And the magic was put in my life. I literally fell in love with nursing. And I made a plan to myself. I would love to go to school, and I'd love to become a registered nurse. That's what I'd love to do. They say that alcoholics don't have willpower. And I'm here to tell you now from this podium that that is a bunch of crap. I have more willpower than 20 elephants. I don't have 1 ounce of willpower when it comes to my disease. But when I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And I went back. I finished junior high. I finished high school. I went to college full-time for 3 years, and I worked full-time for 3 years. And I'm talking about 18, 20 hours a day, you guys, and that is hard stuff to do. I did not drink, not use any drugs in this period of time. At the age of 27 years old, I became a registered nurse. And if you think I'm proud to stand here tonight and tell you that I got jerked in front of the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska, and they told me, you are a disgrace to your profession, you're a disgrace to nursing, you're a disgrace to medicine, you are no longer working because we just jerked your nursing license. If you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. You guys, I love my profession, and I really, really mean that. And I would never do anything to jeopardize the people that I take care of, nor the people that I work with in ordinary circumstances. And what I have to tell you now is a story about how I threw it right down the toilet so I could drink. And that is total insanity. It's also called alcoholism. At the age of 27 years old, I divorced this man. And girls, I got to tell you that a whole new world opened up to me, and it's called men and alcohol. And I went absolutely hog wild is what I did. I was engaged 8 times during that divorce. I never married these people. 2 of them died from alcoholism. I know nothing about social drinking. I drank, ran with alcoholics, and we do indeed die from this. And at the age of 27 years old, I went to work in surgery at a hospital there in Nebraska, and I had that job for 19 years. I love working in the operating room. I love taking care of those patients. It's a colorful, exciting nursing position. I drank, ran with medical people mostly. They were colorful, intense people. They worked hard, and they played hard. And I need to tell you guys that the incidence of alcoholism amongst my profession is tremendously high, and that'll do a lot for your security. You're going to have surgery next week. That has to be very, very true. And those people are so grateful that I'm sober that they can't see straight. And I'm talking about alcoholics is what I'm talking about. In our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, it says clearly that we're telling a general way what our drinking was like. And you're going to get the general idea real quickly what my drinking was like. I can tell you guys about my drinking about 5 seconds flat, the truth. Many, many years ago, I was at a concert in upstate New York called Woodstock. And I'm not talking about that piece of crap they had 10 years ago. I'm talking about the real Woodstock. And there'll never be another one, trust me on that. The kids from the 60s threw a party that nobody will ever match, I'm quite sure. And New York got when they're going to have this big event. And they told these people, if you don't get medical coverage, you are not going to have this concert. I started hiring people from Nebraska, thought me more responsible, and we were a seedy lot, I can assure you. And I was the first drunk to sign up this deal, and my 9 girls I worked with to join me, and then about 80 doctors from New York, and there we were at Woodstock. I never seen so much alcohol in one place in my entire life. You could have easily filled a bath, no problem whatsoever. And the drugs, it was like a candy store, and everybody was sharing narcotics on everybody else. But with this great big semi-truck on that back lot of Woodstock, that was our hospital park back there, and I don't recall being in that semi the entire week. But I do recall what it was like to stand from the stage and night that Richie Havens sang Freedom, and Joe Cocker and Country Joe sang 10 of those groups that I love. I come from the roaring 60s, you guys, and I love rock and roll, let me tell you. And things have not changed in my life in a little tiny bit. I loved Elvis Presley, and Janis Joplin was my lady, let me tell you. Wouldn't Janis Joplin have been a fine member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys? I'd have hung out with Janis, let me tell you. I'd have traded Janis for Clancy any day of the week if you want to know the truth. That isn't true. Don't tell him I said that, please. I was just kidding. I wouldn't trade my sponsor for 20 Janis Joplins, but drinking for me at one time was a fun thing. He'd be alive and stand out and say anything but that. But I cannot remember the fun, I remember the pain that it caused me. And one more time, I am so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, the drunk driving charges, the bad checks, all the stuff that we eventually do. My kids are in trouble. I never could marry these guys I was engaged to. They kept dying from alcoholism. And I thought, you know, I need to get married to my ex-husband again. That's what I need to do. The kids need their father. Besides that, I need to get even with him for all the things he's done to me. And those are not very good reasons to get married again. Trust me, they're not good reasons to get married again. But, you know, I love to tell you guys this story I'm ready to tell you. And, you know, if anybody in this room is thinking about getting married to the same person twice, don't do it. You're going to be sorry. The only way I can describe it is like taking a bite out of the same turd twice, if you will. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel. And I danced that man through 3 of the most miserable years of his life on the face of this earth. But, you know, my sponsor always tells me that is not funny, and you should not be telling that from AA podiums. I said, okay, fine, then I won't tell anymore. And he said, no, go ahead and tell those people, see how sick you really were, and apparently how sick you really still are. And I'm still sick, and I still think it's funny, and I'm telling the story. When I married him, I told him, I said, if you ever hit me again, buddy, I will kill you next time you hit me. And he said, I'll never hit you again ever. And I said, you better see that you don't. And he lied is what he did, and came home drunk one night. And I happened to be sober this night for some reason, and I'll never know why, because I usually wasn't. And girls, you know what guys do when they come home drunk? They want to take you to bed and stuff. And I was not buying it. If there's anything I can't stand, it's some drunk man mauling me when I'm sober. And I will say that when the shoe's on the other foot, though, it's fine with me. That guy came home and indicated that to me, and I said, you get your hands off me and leave me alone. I wanted nothing to do with him, period. And he broke my arm is what he did. And I'm here to tell you guys that I was pissed. As a matter of fact, I'm still pissed about it, you know the truth. And I told him, I said, you go to sleep on that couch, and so help me God, when you wake up, you're going to wish you'd never been born. And he said it for hours, you guys, the eyes pried open. And as it must be, he finally passed out. And I started drinking martinis, and this is a classic example of what alcohol does for me. Alcohol told me what to do. I didn't tell it what to do. And I had about 8-10 martinis, and I was feeling no pain, I can assure you. And I was sitting there watching this guy. And I hate to tell you what this man was doing, but I can't tell you the story. I can tell you what he was doing. He was laying on the couch playing with himself. I thought, you disgusting man, you make me sick to my stomach. And the more I drank, the madder I got. And you guys, you know, I'm a nurse, and I'm very familiar with male anatomy. And I'd be very familiar with male anatomy if I wasn't a nurse. But anyway, I thought to myself, what can I do to get even with this guy for all the things he's done to me? And I came with this brilliant idea in my drunken stupor. That's one thing we should never do, folks, is drink and think at the same time. And, you know, this is many, many years ago, you guys, when super glue first came out. And super glue was powerful stuff. You know, Mrs. Bobbitt has nothing on me, I can assure you. I was a foreign before she ever got started. And I got that super glue out, and I read the directions on that super glue. And like I said, I was drunk, and I wasn't seeing very clearly. And what I thought those directions said were, if this hits human skin, you better get off in 15 hours. Now, why would it say something stupid like that? What it said was, in fact, if this hits human skin, you better get off in 5 minutes is what it said. And I went to this guy. I get so excited when I tell this story, I could just do it all over again. This guy... And I poured super glue all over this guy's groin, and I mean everywhere. There was not one place man to have super glue, and I laughed about it, and I went to bed. And I woke up in the morning to screams of horror like you cannot even believe it. You know, I did not mean to hurt this guy as bad as I did, and I swear to God that's true. But I'll tell you what happened to my ex-husband. This guy never had the advantage of being circumcised when he was born, and now he clearly was, I can assure you. We had a telephone by our bed there in our bedroom there in Lincoln. He called the police and the cops in front of our home with their sirens going. There was an ambulance out there. The neighbors were gawking out their windows. And, you know, one thing you guys got to keep in mind here, they do not see things like this happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. And California would not surprise me one bit, but certainly not there. And the cops were laughing, which I thought led me to believe the whole thing was funny. And they said, "Lady, are you crazy or what? Why would you do something like this?" And I said, "What makes you think that I did it anyway? I was only standing there with glue on my hands, for Christ's sakes." And they said, "You're under arrest for assault and battery." And I said, "You cannot arrest wives in Nebraska for assault and battery against their husbands." I knew better than that. And 2 days later, when I got out of jail, I guess I didn't know better than that. And they took that man to the very hospital that I worked at in surgery, and he had to have surgery. And one more time, the host staff saw what Karen did, and they took me to jail, I might add, and it turned out to be a terrible, terrible thing. Those doctors down in Lincoln couldn't get that glue off, and they had to get 2 surgeons down from Creighton University Medical School in Omaha, Nebraska to get that glue off. And you know, there's a paper written about that at Creighton, and anybody that's sure going to medical school there, you can read about it if you want to. I'd always wanted a paper written about me, but not like this, I got to tell you. And I was sitting in that jail thinking to myself, I am getting out of this marriage. When this guy comes home from the hospital, he's going to glue something to mine shut. He would have, too, I got to tell you. I'm sorry, but he would have. For those of you who don't know this, that happened to a lady in Kentucky about 3 years ago. It was on the national news, and I was on the freeway. I had a wreck when I heard it. I thought, my God, better her than me, I got to tell you. But anyway. You know, we have an amends step in this program, and my sponsor made me get on an airplane and fly to Sacramento, California, and make amends to my ex-husband where he currently lives. And I tried to tell my sponsor, I'm not sorry that I did that. Therefore, I have to make the amends. He said, I don't care whether you're sorry or not. Get in that plane, do what I'm asking you to do, and maybe one of these days you will be sorry. And I'll tell anybody in this room tonight, when that guy sees me, he kind of backs up, let me tell you. But we were able to sit down and talk and stuff, and I made my amends to him. And I will tell you guys, I walked away from that man. I was free of what I'd done to him. I was free of being married to him twice. And I will tell you, for the first time in my sobriety, the promise in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous came true in my life. And you also found out about that? Motives mean nothing here, folks. My motives sucked on that one, let me tell you, but I still got the promises, so go figure. It's action A that counts, not motives around here and stuff. I have to tell you guys a funny story. I almost forgot to tell this. I went up to Lompoc Prison to speak, and as we all know, it's a men's federal penitentiary in Central Coast, California, and they're this monthly speakers meeting, so they invite folks to drive up and share. So I did that, and I went to the guard tower. You have to push the button. They say, who are you and what is your business? And I told them, they said, well, Mrs. Garrison, do you have any weapons on you, any guns, knives, explosives? And I said, no. And they said, well, Mrs. Garrison, do you have any super glue on you? For the first time in my life, I was totally speechless. You know, they're from the guard tower laughing. It was so funny. The prisoners put them up to it and stuff. And I said, well, no, as a matter of fact, I don't. They said, well, then you can come on in. Then the prisoners took me to their meeting room, and they had this blackboard, and there was a great big circle with a red slash that says, no super glue in here tonight. You never know what's going to happen in Alcoholics Anonymous. But, you know, I divorced this guy one more time, and I got involved in the most bizarre man I've ever met before in my life. This guy told me he was in the mafia. Now, I don't think anybody in Nebraska is in the mafia, for Christ's sake. So I was lying to him, and he was lying to me. It was your typical alcoholic nightmare is what it was. I was drinking on a daily basis. I was taking Valium for severe tremors I was starting to have. It was beginning to be no more fun, I got to tell you guys. You know, I'm a nurse, and I've studied alcoholism. I knew all about it before I became one. It shows me one more time tonight what our book says is so true. Self-knowledge avails us nothing with this disease. It's action that counts. Nowhere in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous do we have a chapter called Into Thinking. We do have one that's called Into Action. And that's the only reason I'm standing here 23 years sober. And the day came me to the hospital told me, we have had all the crap we're going to take off of you, Karen. You know, you are pathetic. You are the finest nurse on this staff. You have won awards for your nursing ability. What in the world is wrong with you? We're tired of reading about you in the paper. Drunk driving charges, bad checks, gluing husbands, all the crap that you're doing. Everything you do in Nebraska is in the paper, I'm sorry to say. And they knew my game, let me tell you. And they said, you're going to a treatment center or you are out of here. We're not protecting you no more. Treatment center or you're gone. And I said, you and what army's going to make me go to a treatment center? And I walked out of a job that I loved more than anything in the whole world, and I cannot say that enough tonight. And I drank and I drank and I died 1,000 times over. I went to work in a nursing home there in Lincoln. What I'm ready to share with you guys is something I am not proud to discuss from an AA podium. It took me years into my sobriety before I would ever mention this. I found myself still in drugs in that nursing home, and it wasn't because I liked drugs. It has nothing to do with anything. I was physically addicted to alcohol by now. I had to have this stuff. I couldn't go more than 3 hours without drinking. I couldn't drink at work, so I started stealing drugs, and that's exactly what happened happened to me. And I was still on morphine and Demerol and cocaine and Valium I could get my damn hands on. And if you think I'm proud of that, you are sadly wrong. And the day came to me, the people that ran that place came up to me and they said, Karen, what is wrong with you? You are just weird is what you are. Now, you take good care of the patient, you're a great nurse, but you're just strange. And I remember thinking to myself, you'd be strange too if you had 200 milligrams of Demerol on board. You'd be strange too. And I threw my keys at them and I walked out the door before they fired me. And I went to work at Bryan Memorial Hospital there in Lincoln. And you guys, it's a fine, fine facility. And I was drunk on that interview. I got that nursing position. And I'm not talking about falling down drunk. I was just maintaining a certain level of alcohol in my bloodstream that I would not shake and have those violent tremors. That is clearly desperation drinking. Our book describes it vividly. And I was in hot water up to my yin-yang, let me tell you. The very thought that I might drink again makes the hair on my neck stand straight up. And that's why I'm an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff. But the day came to me when I got caught red-handed stealing some morphine from that hospital. And this has got to be, without a doubt, the most humiliating day of my entire life. When they said, you give us your narcotic keys and you get out of this hospital, don't you ever walk back in here again. We're reporting this to the State Board of Nursing Nebraska. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they should have done. My other two jobs should have done it too, as a matter of fact. And long story short here tonight, I lost my nursing license. And to make a long story short and short here tonight, I wound up on the streets of Nebraska is what happened to me. And you guys, I spent 2 years on the streets. And I've traveled the Midwest. I've prostituted myself. And I'll guarantee you one thing, that I have seen and done things that no woman should ever see her doing. I'm still so sick in the head sometimes I think to myself, I wouldn't mind seeing some of them again, you know. And my sponsor assures me I'm still a very ill person in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But, you know, I've been in nut houses. I've been in detoxes. I've been in jails. I've been in institutions. I cannot think of a thing happening on the streets as a practicing female alcoholic. Things happen to me I would not repeat from this podium tonight. But I'm sure that you have the general idea. And 2 years rolled by for me. And there I was back there in Lincoln, standing on Skid Row, sucking on a bottle of Mad Dog. And I certainly had better things intended for myself than to be doing that, I got to tell you. I will never forget that last day of my drinking as long as I live. And I hope to God it was the last day of my drinking. I apparently was so physically sick, I just passed out on the streets is what happened. But before that happened, I remember thinking to myself, there was a Hilton Hotel adjacent to that Skid Row area. And I remember thinking, 2 years ago, I used to stand on top of the Hilton Hotel and drink martinis with surgeons. What am I doing standing on Skid Row drinking with these people? And I rather imagine those folks felt the same way when they arrived there. And like I said, I can't tell you much about it at all. I woke up in an intensive care ward, the very hospital I was born at, the very hospital that I worked at for 19 years. And I will tell you guys clearly that the alcoholic hell for me started the day I got sober. You know, I'm not a very big person. I only weighed 95 pounds when I got sober. And I was coming off a quarter whatever a day and 200 milligrams of Valium a day. That is a lot of booze. That's a lot of pills. And I had a lot of dying to do, let me tell you. You know, I laid in that intensive care ward. I had tubes come out of my belly that were draining fluid off my liver. I had IVs going. And I found myself in withdrawal that was so bad I cannot begin to tell you guys. And I laid in that intensive care ward and I shook and I shook and I died for 30 solid days. And I'd scream at those nurses, demand they give me drugs for this withdrawal. And they would give me absolutely not drug one. They said, there's nothing wrong with your heart. It's not throwing any irregularities. You're not getting one thing from us, so quit asking us for them. You need to fill in one of those tremors and maybe you'll never do it again. And I did not want to hear that, let me tell you. But let me tell you what these people did for me. And I will be forever grateful as long as I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. They got 10 members of AA to come and sit with me. And, you know, I just want to say something very quickly because I feel so strongly about this because it saved my life. Once on Alcoholics Anonymous, I hear people say, not very many people, and I don't hear it that often, but when I hear it, I want to throttle them by the neck. They say things like, we don't go unless the alcoholic calls us. Ladies and gentlemen, I am standing here 23 years sober tonight. I never made any damn phone call. Where'd that crap come from? If it's good enough for our co-founders, by God, it's good enough for us. I think Bill called Bob, as the story goes. I don't think Bob called Bill. And my responsibility statement does indeed say, when anyone anywhere reaches out for help, we want the hand of AA always to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. The nurses reached out. The alcoholics responded. And I have to believe as a direct result of that, I'm standing here 23 years sober tonight. But, you know, I just fell in love with these people, you guys. There was nobody in my life the day I got sober. And for the first time in a long time, people were talking to me again. And they say things like, Karen, just keep breathing. That's all you got to do is breathe. And I'd say, when is this withdrawal going to stop? And they said, when it's time, that's what's going to stop. And that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted a date is what I wanted. And they couldn't give me a date, and they were absolutely accurate about that. When it's time, it's time. And at 30 days of sobriety, I walked into the official treatment for that hospital. I'm a product of a treatment center. I have no opinion on one way or the other, but apparently I went to a fine one because all they talked about was Alcoholics Anonymous. And boy, there's a lot of bad ones out there, you guys. Let me tell you, and thank God I went to a good one. And let me tell you what I was like when I was 30 days sober. I turned on you like you cannot even believe when you started telling me what to do. I need you so desperately on day one that 30 days there was a whole different ballgame, let me tell you. But, you know, where I went through treatment, a lot of people got kicked out of treatment for fraternizing. I didn't. Nobody wants to fraternize with an orange person, I can assure you. They used to bring the patients over to the hospital and they'd say, look at her, see what's going to happen to you if you keep on drinking? Look at her. I thought, how dare you bring people in my room and say stuff like that? But you guys, you know what, in retrospect tonight, I am really glad they did that. I could think about that before I picked up any drink, but I was on a quick study in that inpatient 3-day program due to my very rotten behavior. I was in there for 7 long months. That's a long time to be an inpatient 3-day program, but I completed that inpatient program, and I went to an outpatient program, and I went to an evening care program, and I went to an aftercare program, and I found myself a very, very active member of Alcoholics Anonymous in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I was not doing one thing, but you teach people in A to do it, and I rapidly went through 19 sponsors in that town. I would tell the new people, you don't need to read the book, and you don't need a sponsor. We can do what we want to do around here. This is an individual program. And needless to say, I was not real popular with the old-timers in Lincoln, Nebraska. You guys, the old-timers in A are so precious to me as I stand here tonight, but not in 1982. I could have killed us what these people thought, and you can pull your crap out here just for so long, and these old-timers are going to start nailing you one right after the other. God loved them, you old-timers in Alcoholics Anonymous. They literally saved my life, and they are dying off right and left, I got to tell you guys, and they have taught me well, and I'll be eternally grateful. But this old guy with 29 years of sobriety grabbed me one day, one day. He said, come outside, I want to talk to you. He said, you stay away from the new people. How dare you tell the new people in AA, read the book and they need a sponsor. He said, you're like a typhoid Mary in AA. Everybody stays sober, but you stay sober, but everybody else dies around you. And he said, there's going to be a man from California speaking in Kearney, Nebraska this weekend. His name is Clancy. Hey, this man's speaker, and ask this man if he will sponsor you. He is a master at dealing with jerks like you. And I heard all about Clancy, and I wanted nothing to do with him, period, because I knew I was going to be in bad, bad trouble. And I got to tell you guys that my fears have been justified 8,000 times over. But I told this old-timer, I said, who do you think you are that you're going to tell me he's going to be my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous? He said, if you don't get in that car and go this Saturday, I'm going to tell everybody in Lincoln how you stole money from an AA meeting. And I'll guarantee I was in that car going to Kearney, Nebraska. I paid that money back, too, by the way. I did pay it back. I did. And I will tell you guys that from a podium in Kearney, Nebraska, that man literally put the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous in my life. My life has never been the same since that talk. And there's a reason for that. For the first time in my sobriety, I was identifying with another alcoholic. And as I understand Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what this thing is all about. I know of no finer speaker in the world than my sponsor. I'm not saying that you need to believe that. It's only important that I believe that. And by the end of that talk, I wanted that man for my sponsor. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how God works in my life. I wouldn't have asked that man to sponsor me in a million years. He does for me, apparently, what I cannot do for myself. And I found myself walk across the convention floor and asked that man to be my sponsor. And he looked at me and he said, I don't sponsor crazy people like you. And that's a lie anyway. He sponsors Ed. I'm just kidding. You know that I do. I asked him to be my sponsor, and he said, you know, I don't sponsor crazy people like you. And I thought, why did he say that to me for? He doesn't even know me. And I stood in my little white dress on, my little white gloves on, acting like an angel. And I wasn't aware of the fact this old-timer had called him 2 weeks prior to him coming to Nebraska and asked if they brought me if he would talk to me. He said, of course I will. And he knew my game, let me tell you. And he said, Karen, I like to sponsor people on a long-distance basis, but I'm going to do this for you. If I don't do it for you, you'll probably go die somewhere. But he said, I'm going to tell you something, little girl, and you better listen to me real good because I'm going to say it one time and one time only. You're going to call me when I tell you not to call me every day. You are going to read that book. You're going to sponsor people, become an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. You're not going to argue with me, defend your actions to me. You're going to do what I ask you to do. And if you don't want to do that, then get yourself a different sponsor. And you guys, you want to talk about we stood at the turning point. This is the day when my recovery really began in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said 2 words that I almost fell over when I said them. I said, yes, sir. I don't tell people yes, sir. Trust me, I do not. One more time, God knows I can't do for myself. Respect's got to start for me somewhere. You might as well start with my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I went back to Lincoln. I became very, very active in the right way. One of my sponsors, a lot of women in that town. It wasn't long before my sponsor was telling me, I want you to get that nursing license back. And I tried to tell him, I cannot get that kind of humiliation. He said, Karen, are you arguing with me? And I said, no. He said, get the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska and tell those people you've been sober in AA for a year and a half, you'd like the opportunity to get your nursing license back. And you guys, I knew it wasn't going to work, but I did it anyway. And that's without a doubt the most important thing I can say in this room tonight. I did what my sponsor asked me to do, whether I thought would work or not. And I asked them for my license back. And they looked at me like I had just grown horns on the top of my head, I can assure you. And they said, how many links are you willing to go to? And I had to do a lot, you guys. I had to take crap off people for 2 years that I wouldn't hire to mow my own lawn, if you know the truth. And I had to keep my mouth shut in the process, too. And one of the happiest days of my life occurred 19 years ago last April, when one more time I was jerked in front of the State Board of Nursing in Nebraska, and what they told me brought me to my knees for the first time in Alcoholics Anonymous. They said, welcome home. You're fully reinstated as a registered registered nurse. And that is a gift from AA. I don't deserve that, but by God, I intend to take it. I went to visit LA a couple times. I fell in love with Southern California AA, and we should all feel that way about our respective areas. I truly believe that I'm in the Mecca of Alcoholics Anonymous in the whole world, and I know that's very true because I get the honor of speaking all over the world and stuff. But anyway, I told Clancy on the phone one day, I want to move to LA. Live in that crazy Venice Beach with all those crazy people. I knew I took a glove, not been wrong about that either. But I'm the Pacific Group. I want to work at UCLA in the operating room. Me and two of their transplant teams, their heart and liver transplant teams. I want this and I want that. And every single of those things have come true for me. And those are all gifts from AA. I deserve none of it. By God, I'm taking all of it. And, you know, many people here tonight have asked me to tell these two stories, and I want to thank you so much for asking me, because then I get to relive them all over again. You know, early on, my sponsor asked me, he sat me down, he said, Karen, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous is a spiritual program in its entirety, but where are you at with that? Where are you at with the God in your life? And I said, I don't believe in God, Clancy. I can't do that stuff. I don't believe it. I cannot pray. He said, young lady, and he flipped open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he showed me where I get a daily reprieve contingent on a spiritual maintenance with power greater than myself. And he went on to tell me there's going to come a day in your sobriety when I can't help you, AA can't help you, and you had better well have a God in your life, little girl, or you are dead in the disease of alcoholism. And I believe it as I stand here tonight, because it's happened to me many, many times in my sobriety. And thank God by the time it happened, I had a God. But, you know, so I started taking those actions. I said, what do you want me to do? I want you to get on your knees in the morning. I want you to get on your knees at night. And I want you to pray for God's will. Do not pray for things. Pray for God's will and the power to carry that out. And I started doing that. I did that for 4 years. I had Clancy long distance in Nebraska. And every day I tell him on the phone, I don't feel any connection with God. This isn't working for me. He said, are you staying sober one day at a time in Alcoholics Anonymous? I said, well, you know that I am. He said, that's the point of the whole thing. Are you stupid or what? I wasn't playing with a full deck here. It took me a long time to get these little simple things. In 1985, I found myself at the World Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous in Montreal, Canada. If you guys haven't experienced a World Conference, it's something that none of us should ever miss. What a great thing it is and stuff. But I drove from Nebraska with 5 people I sponsored, myself in one car. We drove straight through from Lincoln, Nebraska to Montreal. I would never do it again in a million years, but it's the only way we could do it. We only had $100 apiece. We had no place to stay, but by God, we were going to that World Conference, and we had to sleep outside. We were going. We got to Montreal, the convention center. We found an apartment to rent for the whole week, and I could not believe our good luck for $100. And I found myself in a great big football stadium at that Saturday night meeting. That Thursday night meeting. And there was 65,000 sober alcoholics in that football stadium. And I was in awe of Alcoholics Anonymous and absolute awe of this program. And down there on the football field, they were practicing for a flag ceremony, and alcoholics from all over the world carrying their national flags. And you guys, I'm from Nebraska, and I was impressed, let me tell you. And I'm impressed today by people from all over the world in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I ran back up and joined my friends, and that flag ceremony started. And I will never forget this as long as I live. I'll never forget this. When the United States of America's flag touched the turf of that stadium, I saw 65,000 sober people go absolutely crazy. And I looked around myself. I did not see one dry eye in that stadium. All those old-timers sitting around, all the new people, and all the people in between. And they all seem to be loving this thing so very, very much. And I remember thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? Why can't I feel what these people are feeling? I, too, wanted to love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I could not seem to achieve it somehow. And for the first time in my life, with any amount of sincerity, I said, God, thank you for getting me here. Please help me to stay here. Please help me to love this program as much as these people do. And I will tell you guys, in a foreign country, in a foreign land, I came to believe in a power greater than myself by watching and being with the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. I really believe the old adage that we see when ready to see, we hear when ready to hear, not before. I also believe the actions my sponsor gave me got me to that point. You know, it's like, do it till you believe it. Just take the action and do it till you believe it and stuff. And I have taught that God every day sincerely since, because I believe what my book tells me. I get a daily reprieve, and that's all I get. You guys, I have a fabulous job at UCLA. I work in the operating room on delivering to heart transplants and stuff, transplant teams and stuff. But, you know, early on I asked my sponsor, I said, Clancy, what is God's will? He said, how the hell am I supposed to know? I'm not God. He said, I have to believe if I'm not lying, stealing, cheating, and doing the right thing, that's got to be God's will. I think God wants me to stay sober. I think God wants you to stay sober. Past that, I don't know, Karen. No human being knows what God's will is. They tell you they do. I'd suggest that you get away from them real quick and stuff. But I said, well, what do you mean, do what's in front of you? He said, do what God gives you. Do what's on your plate. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, why don't you start answering the telephone? We'll just start with the telephone being answered. And I thought, what has this got to do with anything? Let me tell you something. It's got everything to do with anything. But anyway, it took me a long time to get a telephone in Alcoholics Anonymous. By the time I got it, I sure didn't want to answer it. It was bill collectors. But as a direct result of answering that telephone, I'm $86,000 out of debt in Alcoholics Anonymous. But so I started answering that telephone. Do what's in front of you. Anyway, for many, many years, I was on those transplant teams at UCLA. I had back surgery in 1996. I can't do that kind of nursing anymore, but I'm still over there every single day and stuff. I sell surgical instruments now. But at any rate, so I started doing what was in front of me. But about 12 years ago, we had trouble nursing crisis in Southern California. And we were working our butts off, let me tell you. And I was always the first one to complain about, like we're too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. I was a bitch is what I was. But this one particular week, I'd worked 72 hours and stuff. And this one night, we do most of our transplants at night over there and stuff, so because it's just convenient to do it that way and stuff. But this one particular night, I had off, and I went home. I went to bed early. I went to a meeting early in the evening. I was just exhausted, you guys. And the phone rang about 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought, I'm not answering that damn phone. It's my boss want me to come to work, or somebody I sponsor wanting to whine about something, and I'm not going to pick up the phone. Well, you guys have taught me well, I'm sorry to say, and my head told me, pick up the damn phone, somebody's in trouble. And I'm so glad I answered that phone, you guys. The most precious thing happened to me. And sure enough, it was my boss, and she said, I've got 18 people sick over here tonight. We're going to liver transplant a little girl that's about 3 years old. I have nobody to do it. Now get over here and help me. I don't want to hear it, Karen. I know you work 72 hours. I can't help it. You've got to come over here and help me. And the phone went dead. And I thought, I'm going to call my sponsor, but I want to talk to him about nothing at 2 o'clock in the morning. He told me nobody ever died from lack of sleep, Karen. Said there's a first time for everything, Clancy. I'm so glad I went to work. The most precious thing happened. And I got over there and I sent my orderly upstairs and to bring our little patient down to surgery. And we had to jet him to New York with the liver for this child. We had some time to kill and stuff. So he called me in the back and he said, you're not going to believe all the people of this family. And I thought, well, that's nice if they had the support. I was so crabby, you guys. And I went out front to get my patient. And sure enough, there was like 85 people with this family. I thought how highly unusual at 4 o'clock in the morning. How highly unusual any time if you want to know the truth. And the next thing I noticed was the mother. She had the most beautiful blue eyes I've ever seen before in my life. And the dad was good looking and stuff. And I looked down at my little patient. And I got to tell you guys that Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to love at a level I never, ever, ever dreamt possible myself. And I ever so gently fell in love with this little baby girl. And she's so sick, she lifted her head off the pillow. She was so sick and dying from some strange liver thing and needed a transplant. And I'm really thinking to myself, and you didn't want to be here, you selfish person. And I made up my mind, I want to be the best nurse I've ever been before in my life. And by God, I was too. But in her little arms, she had a bear. And she had a blanket wrapped on that bear, hanging on him for dear life. And I'd been over and I talked to her and I said, oh, you brought your little baby bear down to surgery. And tried to tell me her bear was going to have a liver transplant. And I said, oh, you're both going to have one. And she said, no, just the bear, But anyway, we sent the family out to the waiting room, and that mom and dad were in absolute hysterics, let me tell you guys. And this baby says to me, she says, why is my mommy crying? Go tell my mommy not to cry. I can't stand when mommy cries. And because of Alcoholics Anonymous, what I've learned in this program is able to tell that baby the truth. And I said, your mommy's crying because your mommy loves you so very, very much. And that seemed to settle her down a little bit and stuff. And we have an anesthesiologist at UCLA that loves to play with the kids. He is just a delight to work with. So when she got her IV started, the bear got an IV started, and his bag said bear juice. She thought that was real funny. And when she went to sleep, the bear went to sleep. And it was really quite painless for her, if you know the truth. But that 16-hour transplant did not go well, you guys. We almost lost that baby a couple times due to blood loss. I have never seen a team of people pull together for that baby that night. And 16 hours later, she went to her room with not much hope at all. She'd lost a tremendous amount of blood. And, boy, we said some prayers on that one, let me tell you. And I became obsessed with this child, and I had to see her again. I knew she was still alive, you guys. And we have a rule at UCLA. You may not get involved with these transplant patients. Then where the organs come from, we cannot tell them. It's best not to see them after surgery. Now, I'm telling anybody in this room tonight that I'm real good at breaking rules. And I thought, I'm just going to go up and see how she's doing. I'm not going to talk to anybody. And she was 6 days post-op from that transplant. I went to that baby's room, and I opened that door of that child's room, and I could not believe it was in front of my face. My God, the power of God, the power of God. Here was this little baby girl. It was the first time she went for the surgery. She was jumping up and down in her crib. She had diapers hanging around her knees. She had a baby bottle, that bear in one arm, baby bottle in the other, and she put Band-Aids all over this bear. He had Band-Aids on his eyes, his ears, his nose, and I mean everywhere. And I just stood in that hall, and I just cried like a baby. It's not cool to see the nursing staff bawling. That whole room full of people in there. And something caught my eye out of the corner of my eye, and I'll be damned if our book wasn't sitting on that kid's dresser. And I was in that room like a flash. I didn't care if I got fired. And I asked the mom, I said, whose book is that? And she said, well, that's my book. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So is my husband. Her sponsor was there. His sponsor was there. And those 75, 80 people have driven 500 miles to be with his family. They were not from the LA area. And they showed me one more time what this thing is all about. It's about love and service, and that's all it's about. And I was impressed, let me tell you. And I asked the mom, I said, how long have you been sober? And she said, 5 years today. I thought, oh my God, her baby up for the first time. What a fabulous birthday present and stuff. And I walked up to this little girl, and she stopped dead in her tracks. She said, go away, I'm not sick anymore. I had my scrub clothes on. It scared the hell out of her, didn't I? I said, I didn't come here to hurt you. I came here to see how you're doing. And you guys, she gave me her little bear, and she says, you take him home and take care of him. I know why she gave me the bear, to get me the hell away from her, but I could pretend like she wanted me to have it. And I told the mom, I said, I cannot take that baby's bear home. My God, this bear went through this baby's liver transplant. We had a little plastic bag of her entire surgery by her head. And she said, oh, Karen, please take it. She wants you to have it. She's got 50 bears in this room. And she did indeed have 50 bears in that room. And I felt like a fool walking down the hall with that bear, that bear became my most prized possession from Alcoholics Anonymous for many, many years. Then it got to be too important to me. When it gets to be too important, we got to get rid of it, folks. And my little granddaughter says to me, Grandma, can I have that bear? And I said, it's Grandma's bear, Brandy. And she says, I said, Grandma will buy you 100 bears. It's my bear. And she said, I don't want 100 bears. She knows the whole story. And she said, I want that bear so I can tell my little girlfriends the story. And I said, Grandma will buy you another bear. We'll put Band-Aids all over the bear. No, she said, I want that bear. And it got so bad for me. Finally, I said, it's Grandma's bear. And I thought, I can't believe I said that to my grandchild. But it got so bad for me, I talked to my sponsor about it. What's a 50-year-old woman talking to her sponsor about a damn bear for? You know, my sponsor told me, give her that bear right this minute. You're the most selfish person I've ever met before in my life. He said, you got to give it away to keep it. You got the memory, give her the bear. Right this minute, give her that bear. And that bear sits in Lincoln, Nebraska. I visited my bear in August, and he's doing very, very well. She's now 22 years old, and she has her own family, 2 little kids and stuff. So she's taking very good care of my bear and stuff. But anyway, in that hospital room, the nurses got wind of all this. We got a cake for the mother. We celebrated her 5 years of sobriety. I got my sponsor on the telephone. I have never seen him more excited, since that time. Let me tell you, he was so excited. In about 3 hours, there were about 50 cars in front of UCLA, and I cannot begin to tell you how proud I was to take those people to my home group in Alcoholics Anonymous at the Pacific Group. There's been no more contact with them. It's got to be that way for many, many reasons. Now that little girl is doing very, very well and stuff. And I stood in that hospital room, and I thought, I need to reciprocate here. I obviously was not prepared for a birthday party. And I remember something that was in my pocket that my sponsor gave me when I was 5 years sober. I was 12 years sober when this happened. You know, I'm a selfish woman, I'm sorry to say. I could not seem to find the woman that was special enough, in my opinion, to give my 5-year medallion to. And I knew I'd found her, let me tell you. And the reason that's in my pocket tonight, there's narcotic keys next to that medallion. I don't tell anybody in this room tonight, when I open that cupboard sometimes, my eyes look like a firecracker. So I can grab that and remember where I'm coming from here. But anyway, I gave her my medallion. She says, Karen, I can't take that. My God, Clancy gave you that. And I said, no, I want you to have it. And I really, really meant that. That's what she eventually did for me and stuff. But anyway, you know, it was just a great, great point, great time in my life. And the point I'm trying to make here, you guys, I could have missed the whole damn thing. How many times in my life have I taken a simple action, like picked up the damn telephone and I missed stuff? That'll make me crazy if I think about it long enough. But, you know, people say to me all the time, why do you keep doing it, Karen? Why do you keep doing it? And I know of no greater thing to say to them than where our 12th tradition says long form. So that this to the end, that my great blessings may never spoil me, I may forever live in thankful contemplation of Him who presides over us all. And there's more reasons than that for me. You're the ones that walked me when nobody else would walk with me. You held my hand when nobody else would hold my hand. And you told me that you loved me. And I need you as desperate as I need you in 1982. You've taught me how to live. You've taught me how to love. You've taught me how to keep my pants up and all those things. And I don't do any of those things very well. But I'll tell you the one thing that I do with 200% absolute perfection, and that is this, that I love this program more than in the whole world. And it's truly a story from an alcoholic hell I cannot even describe. I have truly been given, just like the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says, I have truly been given the keys to the kingdom. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to shut my mouth here right on time. It has been one hell of a walk from Skid Row, Nebraska, to where I stand in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and I think that but for the grace of God and Alcoholics Anonymous, I would have missed it all. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for my life.